I know that I need to run, like quickly run from that role because like that's not aligned with my vision. This is a red flag. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Reni. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy day to watch this video. On my channel, I do fashion, finance, lifestyle, and much more. And today it will be all about career. So if you're new here, welcome, welcome. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? Make sure you subscribe right now. Today I'm going to be doing a video all about the best questions to ask your potential employer when you are interviewing for a job. I know that oftentimes we think that, oh, I have to answer all the questions in an interview, and trust me, I thought this as well, but I realized after working for a year in a position that wasn't really meant for me, I realized I could have figured that out in the interview. It's all about the questions that you ask, and remember, they're not just interviewing you, you're interviewing them as well, because it's important that not only are they happy with you, but you are happy with them. So I'm going to tell you all the questions that I ask, and I'll break them down into different categories. You don't have to ask all of them, of course, but I'm just going to give you a few examples, and I'll give a brief explanation of why I think this is a good question to ask. It's better to ask the first questions in the interview process when there's no obligation to one another, rather than after you've joined and you're in the role for 6 months wondering why the role isn't exactly aligned with what you wanted or what was in the job description. You really need to ask those tough questions so that you get to know all the goods. So I'm going to give you a few tips. So this is, I guess, closer to the end of the interview when they ask, oh, so do you have any questions? Don't say no. First of all, I've been an interviewer and I've realized that when people say no, I'm like, are you even interested in this job? Like, who comes to an interview and doesn't ask any questions? So I would say make sure you always have questions to ask, first of all. The first group of questions that I will tell you about are questions that you're going to ask specifically about the role. Number one would be, what would a typical day in this role look like? You want to know exactly what the day-to-day activities are. If the role is a strategic marketing manager, but for the majority of the time you're going to be doing execution rather than strategy, this is something that you need to figure out before you even get into this role. You're hoping that the person does not lie. I know interviewers can lie, but hopefully the person does not lie and gives it to you straight and tells you exactly what you will be doing on a day-to-day basis. Next question, what will be the most difficult part of this role? If you're someone like me, you actually want to know if this role will be a challenge. If they say the most difficult part of this role is dealing with people and you love dealing with people, this role may not be challenging enough for you. So ideally, you want them to tell you exactly what the most difficult part is, and you can assess whether this is something that is for you or not for you. The next question would be directed to if the person interviewing you is in the same role that you are in. You would ask them a question like this: what do you enjoy most about this role? If they can't think of anything, this is a red flag. What if the best part of this role is something that you are not interested in at all? This is not good and it will probably not be a good fit, so I wouldn't recommend that role for you. The next question is, what is the biggest challenge that your team is currently facing and how can I help solve this when I'm in the role? I think this is something that everyone should ask, because what if the biggest challenge is that they have no budget? Do you really want to work in a place that consistently is cutting your projects because they have no budget? This is not something that you want to face, and hearing that from the beginning can let you know that, okay, this may not be the right place for me because I probably won't be able to fulfill what I want to in this role. You're hoping that the challenge is something that you can use your skills and your expertise to help solve, so you can show yourself as a value add. You can't really show yourself as a value add if the biggest problem is the technology that they currently have that has no budget to be fixed. The next thing is, what metrics or KPIs do you use to measure success in this role? I like asking this question just so I can know that there's actually a way that they measure success rather than just people choosing, oh, I like this person the most, so they're going to get a promotion at the end of the year. I want to see that there are actual measures of success that they use in order to promote people. It's a meritocracy. People are actually recognized for their work and I can measure it. Being able to measure things is so important to me, at least, just because it shows me my progress along the way. So this is something that's a very important question for me to ask when I'm in an interview. Next question, what will the training process be? So this is a very important question as well, because some roles don't even have a training process established. This is not good. This is a red flag in my opinion. Of course, people want someone who can jump in and learn things and are go-getters and learn things by themselves, but there also needs to be some sort of formal training process so that you can learn from people who have already done the role or people who are knowledgeable about what you will be doing. I understand sometimes there are new roles, completely new roles, where nobody can actually train you on what to do, but just to give you the base knowledge, educate you on the business, things like that is very crucial to me. Another question, and this is specific to if the role has travel involved, ask a question like, what percentage of travel is there? I know this seems like a very simple question, but you can be thinking 20% travel role and you're traveling 80% of the time. This is not ideal for some people, especially if you have other obligations. So I would make sure that you ask this question up front so that you can get the answer and decide if it's for you. Next question is, what is the typical career journey of someone in this role? For me, this is personally important because I am a very ambitious person and I love to, I'm constantly looking for the next thing that will elevate my career. If they tell me that, oh, most people stay here in this role for 10 years and then become senior manager 10 years later, I know that I need to run, like quickly run from that role because that's not aligned with my vision. Remember, a role does not have to have a specific title, but it should always align with your vision. If they say there are progressive roles over the next 5 years that will get you to a senior manager role, I will definitely be more interested in that than if they say, oh, stay here for 10 years and then one day you'll get to VP maybe. No, it doesn't work for me. The last question that I would ask about roles is, who are the main people that I will be working with? And a follow-up to this would be, can you meet them or can you have an interview with them? Honestly, in my current role, I was able to meet a lot of people on the team, which was a great asset because I could see if these people were, if I would be a good culture fit for them. If it's a very, like, if I went in and I saw it was a very bro culture, for example, like finance bro culture, I would know that this is not a place for me. But because I was able to meet each and every person, I saw that, oh, they're pretty in line with who I am as a person, so I would like to work here. If you've gotten this far in the video, make sure that you've liked, commented, and subscribed. Tell me some questions that you like to ask when you're in an interview. The next question category are questions about you as a person. So I would ask questions that are about me personally and what is important to me. So a question that I would ask would be, do you have any reservations about the experience or my skills that I can clarify for you? I think this is a great question to ask, and I always ask it at the end of any interview just so people know that I really want your feedback about whether there's something in my resume or something that I've highlighted that you are not sure about. So if they say something like, I'm not actually sure because I see this large gap in your resume and it's a bit concerning for me, could you actually clarify this? This would be a great opportunity for you to say, actually, yes, during this time I was actually doing X, Y, Z. I was taking courses, I was doing this. You want to tell them straight up exactly what it is so they don't have to guess about anything that's on your resume or any experience that you've told them during the interview. The next question that I like to ask is, do you think that I would be a good fit for this team? This is a very bold question, but I really think it's a straight up question. Like, you see me as a person, we've talked for this past 30 minutes, do you think that I would be a good fit for this team? Yes or no? The next question, so this would be something personal to me, would be, I am someone who constantly likes to be challenged and have different opportunities. Are there opportunities to work on new projects or to have opportunities for self-development? If there are no opportunities for self-development within this role, so if they're not willing to pay for courses, send you to conferences, I'm probably not going to take that job. I want to work at a company that invests in me just as much as I'm investing in them. The last question that I would ask in relation to me is something like this. Diversity and inclusion is something that's very important to me. I just want to know, how does your company champion diversity and inclusion and belonging through its practices? If they don't, that's a telltale sign that this ain't the place for me. And remember, not every place will be for you. Not every place is meant for you. What is meant for you will be yours. The next category of questions would be questions about management. So I always ask questions about management because there's nothing worse than being in an interview, having a great experience with the manager, and realizing that they're not actually that person that they pretended to be when you're in the actual role. So some things that I've done is I ask key questions. Of course, they're able to lie about this, but at least you've asked the questions hoping to get the truth. Some questions that I like to ask are, number one, how would you describe the culture of your team specifically? Because especially in a large organization, honestly, like, every team is different. some organizations are the size of small cities, so remember, like every single team is different. So ask what the culture is of this team specifically. This should be a good indication of whether this would be a good fit for you. The next question I would ask is, what management style do you have? If they say they are someone who is completely hands-off and they just let you do what you do, this may be good for you if you are someone who thrives in that situation, but this also may not be right for you. It's not that their management style is bad, it's just not that it's not a good fit for you. So make sure you're finding out what their actual fit is. Some people are micromanagers and they will admit to being very hands-on in every single aspect. That also may not work for you. So make sure you find someone who you can really thrive on. Another question I like to ask the manager is, what are your thoughts on remote work? If they are okay with it, love it, flexible, this is a company I would personally like to work at, or a manager I would personally like to work under. But if they say, it's okay, like I don't really like it, no ill feelings, but I probably don't want to work for them. Another question I like to ask is, what are you hoping that I will achieve in the first year of working here? This actually lets you know that your manager actually has expectations for you and that your growth is important to them. Last question that I will ask in this category is, what do you value in an employee? So if they value someone who is outspoken, who takes the leadership role, who is XYZ, and you are the opposite of all those things, they may not value, and then it may not be an environment that you can really thrive in. Ask the hard questions so you don't have to deal with it later on. And obviously the last step that everyone should do, even if you don't ask any of those other questions, ask them about next steps. I think a lot of people actually forget to ask at the end of an interview. So what are the next steps in this interview process? Or when can I expect to hear from you regarding the decision of this interview process? Make sure that you make an effort to ask this question at the end of an interview. Last but not least, make sure that you send a follow-up email. I think so many people forget to do this, especially as I've been an interviewer. I've learned that a lot of people forget to do this. They don't send any follow-up note showing their interest in the position, and this is a big mistake that you make. If you want to see a video about how you would phrase an interview follow-up note, let me know. I can do that video as well. Remember, they're not just interviewing you for a position, you are also interviewing them. So make sure you ask the tough questions. It's just like a date. On the first date, you want to get as much out of the way as possible. So make sure you ask those tough questions, see if you're actually compatible, and then move forward from there. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.